Wake up, babe. New orb just dropped. And while the reception is mostly positive for Bungie's new launch, many still feel like this company is living in the shadow of Destiny 2, for better or worse. On Wednesday, May the 23rd, 2023, Bungie revealed a secret project that they had been working on for quite some time. That project essentially being a reboot of a license that they've had the intellectual rights to for a few decades, called Marathon, which originally released in 1994 on the Mac, like back when the Mac looked like this. Computers don't look like that anymore, and neither should your wallet. This video was sponsored by The Ridge. Most of you are familiar with The Ridge by now. They make everyday carry items like wallets and key cases in a much more efficient and less space-taking package. Ridge products come in a number of different finishes, but something that's come on the block recently are leather finishes for Father's Day. Said Father's Day sale is running now until June 15th. If you're looking for a Father's Day gift, look no further. They're super easy to use, stylish, and functional. Ridge key cases and wallets are the last ones you'll ever need to buy. As such, they come with a lifetime warranty. With over 3 million customers and 50,000 five-star reviews, it's no wonder that The Ridge is confident in their products. For a great Father's Day gift, go to my link in the description, ridge.com/Gregor, and you can save up to 40% off of your order. That's ridge.com/Gregor to save 40% off of your order. To give an idea in gamer years of just how long ago that was, 1994 predates the first Half-Life, which came out in 1998. Half-Life and its source engine basically creating the building blocks for competitive FPS games as we know them now. Half-Life stood on the shoulders of boomer shooter giants, and the granddaddy of them all was Doom, a game developed for MS-DOS in 1993 when computers were operated by typing text commands, when just creating an FPS level at all was still largely dictated by creative programming. To contextualize that without getting too verbose, Marathon was considered significant at the time because it allowed you to look up and look down.
Where similar games of the time would only allow you to look from side to side, Marathon used a clever parallax effect to allow you to look up and down.
If that still doesn't do it for you, Marathon predates the impeachment of Bill Clinton. This is all a little bit esoteric, but the main point here is that Marathon is what allowed Bungie to be taken seriously. It was the stepping stone that got them to start making Halo and become the FPS powerhouse that they are known as today. So there are a ton of expectations prescribed to Marathon on its virtue of existing right now. We know very little about Marathon other than it's set in the Marathon universe and that it's going to be a PvP extraction shooter. The general premise being you go into an open PvP and PvE mixed environment where you collect loot and make the decision whether or not to stay and get more loot or leave with the spoils that you have collected. I'll talk a little bit about the reception to that a bit later. I think the biggest takeaway for people from the cinematic trailer that Bungie has released is that the game is going to be quite visually striking with a very cyberpunk-inspired art style. It is in a sci-fi environment very similar to previous Bungie games, one of my favorite tropes, consisting of the colonized solar system, with Earth, Mars, and the moon as livable, breathable spaces for humans. However, Marathon, as we know it, doesn't really take place in that solar system. It takes place in Tau Ceti being a solar system close to ours, about 12 light years away. In the plot of the original games in the 90s, the Marathon is an arc ship transporting human colonists to this new solar system. We do have confirmation of story elements from the Marathon promotional website. A ghost ship hangs above a colony on Tau Ceti 4 where 30,000 people have disappeared. Why? We don't know. The player characters are called runners, and they will travel, I presume, either on this ghost ship or the planet itself, trying to uncover the mystery as to why the hell this happened. Set 800 years in the future, clone technology allows people to shift their consciousness to different bodies. So I'm assuming the idea here being a lore explanation for the PvP aspect of this game, basically saying you don't really die, but instead die and be born again. Again and again. Aside from that, we don't know much else. We just know it's an extraction shooter and it takes place in the Marathon universe. But I'm willing to bet that the colonists that have disappeared have something to do with AI, aliens, eldritch beings, or a combination of all three. And I know this because, well, they're all featured quite heavily in the events of the Marathon games that came out previously. So we're going to delve into some pretty esoteric and high-minded space opera sci-fi concepts here, probably. Typical Bungie-isms, typical sort of what is a person, what is AI, what does it mean to be, blah, blah, blah. Bungie loves their Easter eggs, and I think it's an interesting setting for them to explore as an extraction shooter. Extraction shooters, by their nature, kind of working off of that framework, uncovering hidden clues and mysteries that illuminate the smaller puzzle pieces, elaborating on a bigger picture. Now for the more op-ed part of the video, I personally think that this is a really interesting angle to take with this game. Bungie has a proven track record of creating rich, lush environments to immerse yourself in, and Destiny 2 is a great example of such things. Destiny 2 diehards will probably agree at the corporate level that the game has a number of problems, like any other live service game, but the takeaway from the production quality here would be ridiculous. Now, the fact that this new Marathon game is an extraction shooter seems to be a central pain point for a lot of people, and I think there's a reason for it. Whereas it seems for live service FPS games, the Battle Royale is starting to have a twilight. It's theorized extraction shooters are going to take that spot, for better or worse. And I think there are reasons to be skeptical of Bungie's complete pivot to live service. Just about every live service game on the market right now has some kind of problem or list of problems. Whether it's Overwatch's weird cancellation of their PvE mode, Apex's weird back and forth with its competitive community, even War Thunder has gotten in the news recently for its egregious monetization policies. A lot of people are just worn out with live service in general and don't really get why this license was appropriated for that purpose. Destiny 2, especially from a PvP perspective, hasn't been received well for a couple of years, and the monetization practices of that game have garnered a great deal of pushback. If you're not aware, Bungie has a habit of locking cosmetics behind paywalls in Destiny 2, which sounds a bit like a non-issue, and mechanically, the game is not really impacted by microtransactions. However, a huge pull for Destiny 2 is the customization and having your shiny Guardian on display for all. There are even commendations that can be awarded for having the most space drip. So if one of the main pulls for your game is the customization and it's paywalled on top of a paywall to play the expansions, you can see the issue. So while what I've seen of Marathon looks great, Bungie has implied that a big facet of the game is going to come from having a cool cyberpunk cyborg to customize. I have no doubt the game is going to be mired in controversy well after release on those points. Now, personally, I'm a bit of a boomer on this point. I don't really care about cosmetic microtransactions in games, especially if it's first person. I'm not going to see my character unless there's like emotes or something. I think the really only effective way to alleviate these practices is to boycott them. And as we all know, getting dopamine addicted gamers to boycott their dopamine addiction is somewhat difficult. Most of the discourse surrounding this sort of stuff is done online. Most people watch a trailer, go, oh, that's kind of neat, thumbs up it, and then walk away. They don't engage in this discourse. However, if Marathon follows the trend of Destiny from a release point of view, if the game has something like a typical $20 or $40 release, Bungie's getting your money anyway. You kind of give Bungie an in, per se, to continue these practices, even if you don't like the microtransactions after you buy the game. I'm more interested in what the gunplay is going to look like. I think that if Bungie can come up with some really interesting stuff here, and they've proven they know how to, I think that Marathon could separate itself. Bungie's proven they know how to design a sandbox mechanically. Whether or not they will tend to it well post-release remains to be seen. So I guess I could say, like many people, I am cautiously optimistic about Marathon. However, I think that completely writing it off without trying it first is kind of silly. And I think gassing it up like it's going to be the new Fortnite is also kind of silly. Gamers have a tendency to treat every big release like they can look into a crystal ball and know exactly how it's going to go down. Marathon has been able to attract a massive Twitter following in a pretty short amount of time spent. There are a lot of expectations riding on this game. I wait curiously to see what the final product will look like, which won't be for a little while now. As the developers have stated, they will be going radio silent for some time now before they're ready to show us gameplay. However, I think I can safely predict that the game is going to have really good production quality from an art design perspective and will definitely be a major selling point. If Bungie can do enough compelling environmental storytelling with some novel mechanics for the extraction shooter genre, I'm here for it. The game will be cross-platform on the current generation of consoles as well as PC. What do you guys think of the Marathon news we've seen so far? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.